A former beauty queen is arrested in the Bahamas for allegedly conspiring to kill her former pro football player husband. Retired NYPD Sgt. Joseph Giacalone explains more about this investigation. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, we got a story that is actually far too familiar, unfortunately. We have a spouse accused of what is essentially a murder-for-hire plot of their significant other. This takes us to the Bahamas, of all places, where 36-year-old Lindsay Shiver, an American woman from Georgia and former Alabama beauty queen, has been arrested and charged in connection with conspiring to kill her husband, 38-year-old Robert Shiver, who actually played football at Auburn. Then he was briefly with the Atlanta Falcons. Now he's an executive VP of a life insurance company. Lindsay was allegedly having an affair with 28-year-old Terrance Bethel, who was also arrested as part of this murder plot. And the alleged hitman, 29-year-old Faron Newbold, has also been charged. A lot of pieces to dissect in this case. So let me bring in Joseph Giacalone, retired NYPD sergeant and adjunct professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Joseph, thanks so much for coming on here. So many places to start here, but let's just start here. So the way Bahamian authorities discovered this is really interesting. They were searching the phone, specifically the WhatsApp messages, of a suspected burglar of this random restaurant in Great Guana City. And as they search the phone and the WhatsApp messages, they discover all of these communications about this murder plot. Now, it's not clear if that person is one of the people that was arrested, but is that typically how we can discover a crime? You look at the phone of somebody and you say, oh, we're learning about a murder plot or learning about a crime that's maybe not even connected to the person we arrested.
Well, a lot of times, other crimes lead to your investigation. That's why it's always a good maxim to, make sure when you're investigating a case to try to find other pieces because they hold the keys to, maybe your case. And it's just something really important. But this is a little odd because, remember, our viewers have to understand that this isn't in the United States, right, where we have Fourth Amendment issues and the like. This is based on pretty much probably English common law, and they don't have to worry about the Bill of Rights. So, how do they get access to this phone? They haven't really told us yet. It's kind of been pretty much like, we were just investigating this and we found this phone and here we are. We have this case now. So it's going to get interesting.
And we don't know the content of the messages, but I think a lot of times in these murder plot cases, it's the emails, the text messages that leave such a breadcrumb, like a trail of breadcrumbs for investigators. It's kind of ironic because you would think, and again, we don't know all the details, but in the cases where you hire somebody or enlist somebody to commit the murder so your hands are clean, it connects back to the person. I mean, I imagine these messages have to be pretty damning, right?
Yeah, pretty much, right? So this is like, the electronic breadcrumb version. And it's just something that you see in many of these cases. And, people who do this in regards to like hire somebody else to do the dirty work for them, so to speak. Yeah, listen, most people are killed by someone they know, and you become the first suspect anyway. And this is how a lot of these things uncovered. Fortunately,
Right.
In this case, we didn't have a body to start with and then work our way backwards. But it's not unusual that these cases get uncovered pretty quickly.
Do you think there's more than the messages? There has to be. It can't just be the messages. They must have more evidence against her, right?
Well, I'm assuming that based on maybe that or internet records, also maybe some searches that were done, and just common sense in regards to investigating this. If there's any financial transactions, right?
Right.
If somebody's going to kill somebody, they're going to want a lot of money, and you just can't hide that kind of transaction. So I think that's going to be the next part of that case.
Okay, well, let's talk about what the motive could be or what the backstory here is. Here's what we know. This is based on the reporting. The Shivers, along with their 3 sons, they lived in Georgia, but they would vacation in the Bahamas. It's been reported that they had a house in the Bahamas, and that's when Lindsay met her co-defendant, alleged lover, Bethel. But when we talk about the motive, apparently the couple were in the middle of a bitter divorce. It's been reported that Robert initiated the divorce after he caught Lindsay cheating. She fired back that she was abused by Robert, that she endured physical and mental cruel treatment. She claimed in court papers that, quote, any extramarital relationship the defendant has had was during the party's separation and legally condoned by the husband. He apparently wanted primary custody of the kids in the $2.5 million house in Georgia. He also claimed that Lindsay wasn't entitled to alimony. She was arguing for custody, alimony, child support, the home. She accused Robert of taking the kids at one point and not returning them until the police were called. Lindsay was actually supposed to be deposed in these divorce proceedings before this happened. I can't say that this is that foreign. It's these kinds of acrimonious relationships or divorce proceedings where you see these kinds of murders or murder for hire plots. And by the way, she is, innocent until proven guilty. I believe that's the standard in the Bahamas. It's very similar to what we have here. I think it's also proof beyond a reasonable doubt. But point being, were you shocked to learn about this tension in the relationship?
No, because I mean the three biggest motivations for people to kill somebody: love, money, and drugs. Right? Those are the three things that police often focus in on early. And love is always up there because who can get you this angry other than a significant other? So it's kind of important for investigators to piece this together. So, and I would take it even a step further. Was there life insurance policies involved in this too? The whole nine yards in regards to the money, right? We know about the houses, in the United States and in the Bahamas. We know they're valuable from what we've been told. So, I mean, these are the kind of things that kind of scratch your head because when people choose murder as a reason to get out of their responsibilities or what have you, they don't understand the wheels that they put in motion, specifically in a case like this where it gets uncovered just by happenstance. So I think that I just wish that people would, if you're that unhappy, just get the divorce and move on.
Look, you could. I'm not justifying it, but I always imagine we covered like the Corey Richins case, which is eerily similar to this. Unfortunately, in that case, she was accused of actually killing her husband, and they had a contentious back and forth relationship where he actually thought she had poisoned him on previous occasions. He was trying to cut her out of the will and things like that, and so. You would think, oh, just divorce, but divorce can get expensive. They can get ugly. They can get embarrassing. And they can really change people's lives. So, they think, oh, well, if I just get rid of the significant other, that may solve all the problems. Again, they're both haven't been officially convicted. They've just been charged. So they are innocent until proven guilty. But it is something to think about. And for me, I look at this case and I think it's pretty shocking. Aside from the allegations, when you look at her social media, they look like a warm, happy family doing all these different activities together. She posted a few years back on Instagram, quote, "The key to a perfect marriage is having two imperfect people who refuse to give up on each other." She wrote this, I think, next to a caption of their wedding back in 2007. It's another case, right, where the public image may not be what's happening privately.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, social media, of course, plays a big role in a lot of these investigations too. But I'm no lawyer, but that probably hurts her case in the respect that she's saying that she's been abused and everything like that. So she's showing this outward happy type of moments that happen on social media. But if you look at those two cases that we were just talking about, the similarities where they're going through this bitter divorce, but they're still cohabitating together. This is this is another opportunity, right? So if there is a lot of animosity and you still see this person and you're still running, into them in the living room or the kitchen or what have you, this can create even more tension. So, this is probably not the best idea going forward for a lot of people.
By the way, do you think that this is a case where each one of them is going to be pointing the finger at the other? Lindsay's going to say, yeah, I talked bad about my husband, but I never wanted him dead. And maybe her lover's going to say, well, I didn't want her, I didn't want him dead. She told me to do that. Or I didn't know what she was planning. Maybe she could be like, he took it upon himself to kill or try to kill my husband because he thought we'd be together, and then the hitman's involved. Do you usually see them each pointing the finger at one another in these kinds of cases?
Well, yeah, usually the people who are plotting this usually turn on each other because they want to see if they can get a better deal on a lot of this stuff. But it's like the playground, Jesse, right? There's no backsies. If you send somebody a text and says, I want you to kill so and so for me, and I'll pay you X number of dollars, there isn't anybody like, oh, I was only kidding. I really don't want to do any of that stuff. I mean, once you say something like that, you've actually committed the crime. So, and you have a couple of people involved in this, and you have a conspiracy on top of this. So, the defense attorney is going to have a lot of work ahead of them trying to prove that this was just one of those, things that happen in marriages.
Yeah, and look, I don't know what the official charges are. They seem to be coinciding with the conspiracy to commit murder charge. I do wonder if it is going to be beneficial for prosecutors to work out a deal where one cooperates against the other. Do you need that in that case?
Well, I just think that's the way all these kind of cases go. Right? The prosecutors can look for an easy way out on a lot of things because it counts as a conviction, right? So if you take a plea deal, you have somebody roll over on somebody else, and then you can offer the other person a deal and close this case up in a few weeks instead of a few years. That's kind of what a lot of prosecutors will do. But in this case, it depends on what other evidence they have. And if the prosecutor feels that his or her case is rock solid, they might just say, "We're not giving you any deals. We're taking you both there. We're gonna go for the full extent of the law."
The best that you can explain, I know, look, I'm no expert in Bahamian law. I know you're not. But foreigners who are tried in foreign courts, do they get the same kind of treatment, or have you seen examples where they might be treated more harshly? The idea, how dare you commit a crime on our land?
Well, I don't think it's the case because then if their residents have commit a crime in the United States, they don't want to see the same kind of atmosphere. So I think it's pretty much, it is what it is. I mean, we saw cases like, in Italy with Amanda Knox, and we saw a lot of
Yep.
different cases where Americans are charged in committing crimes, except for places like Russia or North Korea, right? I mean, those are kind of things that you kind of scratch your head at and realize that even though our criminal justice system isn't perfect, it's still the best out there. I'd rather be in front of a U.S. court than a Russian court or one specifically in North Korea. That's for sure. But I think they're going to just play this rule. I remember it was under English rule for a long time, and that's where our laws and everything else came from in our country. So I think we'll see something rather similar in regards to the treatment. I don't know how their jail system is or what it looks like, but it's still a situation where you don't want to go to prison outside of the United States.
And my understanding is all three of them are still in jail. They made their initial court appearance. They weren't required to enter a plea. We talked about how the court system in the Bahamas is pretty similar to the United States in certain respects. I know they have a hearing on October 5th, so we're going to have to see how this ultimately plays out. And maybe more importantly, what is more of the prosecution's case? What is more of the evidence that they have against her and her co-conspirators, because I think that's going to be significant. We don't really know what those text messages were, those WhatsApp messages, and we don't know what other evidence they have that or what the plot was to actually kill this man. So this story is going to develop, and we're going to follow it here on Sidebar. Joseph Giacalone, thanks so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.